"Who got that dead pump running?" Caldervale asked. The bunkhouse went so quiet that even the flies seemed to stop circling the tin plates. Outside, the noon sun beat white and hard on the yard of the Double V Ranch, turning the dust into a bright, choking haze. A windmill creaked above the stock tank, its blades turning for the first time in 3 days. Water poured from the pipe in a clean silver rope, splashing into the trough, while 30 thirsty horses crowded close, tossing their heads and shouldering one another like men at a bar. Every hired hand stared at the water as if it were gold. Then they stared at each other. Caldervale stood beside the tank, with his sleeves rolled to the elbow, one hand resting on the cracked leather of his gun belt. He was 34, tall, sun-browned, and known across Powder Creek as a man who wasted neither words nor bullets. His ranch had survived blizzards, rustlers, grasshoppers, and bad loans, but it had nearly lost a whole remuda to one broken pump. He looked from face to face. "Somebody touched this pump after breakfast," he said. "I want to know who." No one answered. Elias Pritch, the foreman, rubbed the back of his neck. "Wasn't me, Mr. Vale. I told the boys it needed a new cylinder from Cheyenne." "New cylinder won't come for 10 days, Calder said. Horses didn't have 10 days. A few men shifted their boots. Then, from the shade beside the wash shed, a young woman stepped forward with both hands folded against her apron. Her name was Mercy Hollis. She was 22, broad-hipped, round-faced, and heavy in a way people noticed before they noticed anything else. Her cheeks flushed easily under the sun. Her dress pulled tight at the shoulders. When she walked, some men looked at the ground to hide their grins, and some did not bother hiding at all. She had arrived at the Double V 6 days earlier with a carpet bag, a dented tool roll, and a letter from a dead aunt who had once cooked for Calder's mother. Elias had taken one look at her and said the ranch needed a laundress more than it needed another mouth to feed. The cook, Mrs. Dobb, had said Mercy could peel potatoes if she kept out of the way. The men called her Biscuit Barrel when they thought she could not hear. Mercy had heard every word. Now she stood in front of them, with a streak of black grease on one cheek and a strip of wet rawhide tied around her wrist. Calder looked at her. "You?" he asked. Mercy swallowed. Her voice came out quiet but not weak. "Yes, sir." A laugh broke from one of the younger hands, a red-haired cowpuncher named Lute Barnes. "Her? She don't know a pump from a pie pan." Mercy's eyes lowered for half a second. Calder turned his head toward Lute. "Did you fix it?" Lute's grin faded. "No, sir." "Then shut your mouth." The words cracked across the yard like a whip. Mercy looked up. Calder stepped closer to the pump and examined the fresh leather packing around the rod. He saw the careful stitching, the trimmed edge, the small washer cut from what looked like a boot tongue and sealed with tallow. It was not pretty, but it worked. Better than that, it had been done by someone who understood what pressure did to worn parts and what dry wind did to leather. "Where did you learn this?" Calder asked. "My father kept stage wells running between Abilene and Fort Kearney," Mercy said. "When parts didn't come, he made them. I watched." "You watched?" "I helped." Another man muttered, "Lord help us, now the wash girl's an engineer." This time Calder did not look away from Mercy. "What else did you see?" Mercy hesitated. She knew the danger of saying too much. A woman could be punished for ignorance, but she could be hated for competence. She had learned that in boarding house kitchens, laundry yards, and dusty depot rooms where men shouted orders at her over their shoulders, then blamed her when things broke. But the horses were drinking. Their flanks no longer trembled from thirst. A bay mare lifted her head from the trough, and water ran from her mouth in bright strings. Mercy took a breath. "The lower valve wasn't seated," she said. The leather cup had shrunk. Somebody tried to prime the line with muddy water, and grit cut the packing worse. I cleaned it, soaked new leather, wrapped the joint, and greased the rod. "It won't last forever, but it'll hold until you can get parts." No one laughed then. Calder's eyes stayed on her face, not on the shape of her body, not on her apron, not on the sweat at her temples. "How long will it hold?" "If the men stop forcing the handle when it catches, maybe 2 weeks." Elias bristled. "The men know how to work a pump." Mercy looked at him, and something in her expression changed. Not sharp, not rude, just tired of pretending foolishness was wisdom. "Then they ought to work it like they know," she said. A few hands coughed into their fists. Calder almost smiled. Almost. "Mrs. Dobb," he called toward the kitchen door, where the old cook had been watching with her arms crossed. "Mercy is done peeling potatoes." Mrs. Dobb frowned. "Then what is she?" Calder looked at the windmill, then at the trough, then back at the woman everyone had tried not to see. "She's the reason my horses are alive." Mercy stood very still. For the first time since she had stepped off the freight wagon at Powder Creek, no one laughed at her. The Double V sat 20 miles from town on a wide stretch of Wyoming territory where the grass came thin and stubborn through the soil, and every mile of land had to be earned twice, once from nature, once from men who wanted it. Calder's father had built the first cabin there with a broken hand and a borrowed team. His mother had planted cottonwoods along the creek, though everyone told her they would die. Two still lived, bent and scarred, but green enough each spring to make the yard feel almost gentle. Calder had inherited the ranch at 28, along with debt, a disputed water claim, and a reputation for being too honest to get rich. He ran cattle, bred horses, and trusted very few people. He had buried his parents within 9 months of each other, and learned that grief could make a man quiet in ways other people mistook for hardness. Mercy knew nothing of that when she arrived. She only knew that her Aunt Ruth had written, years before, that if Mercy ever had nowhere to go, she should try the Double V. Ruth had once worked there when Calder was a boy, back when his mother was still alive and the kitchen smelled of coffee, sage, and apple peel drying near the stove. By the time Mercy came, Ruth was dead. Mercy's father was dead, and the last boarding house where she had worked had closed after the owner's sons sold it to a railroad company. She had taken 3 trains and 1 wagon ride with the money sewn into her hem. At every stop, someone had looked her up and down before deciding what sort of person she must be. Too big to be delicate, too plain to be courted, too poor to be respected, too quiet to be important. On her first night at the Double V, she had slept in a narrow storeroom off the kitchen. The cot groaned beneath her, and she lay awake listening to the men laugh in the bunkhouse. She heard her own name, though most of them had not bothered to learn it. "She'll eat more than she washes." Maybe Vale hired her to scare the coyotes off. "Girl that size ought to pull a plow." Mercy stared at the ceiling until dawn made the rafters gray. She did not cry. Tears had never fixed a pump, mended a harness, or bought flour. The next morning, she rose before Mrs. Dobb and swept the kitchen. She hauled water, chopped kindling, washed shirts, scrubbed collars, and said little. When a hinge sagged on the pantry door, she tightened it with a nail and a table knife. When the stove damper stuck, she cleaned the soot from the joint. When the coffee grinder slipped its pin, she replaced it with a filed bit of wire. Nobody thanked her because nobody noticed. Until the pump. After that day, the ranch changed in small ways. Not kindly, not all at once. Men who had laughed at her now watched her hands. If a lantern sputtered, someone left it near the wash shed. If a spur strap broke, it appeared on the bench outside the kitchen. If the wringer jammed, Mrs. Dobb called Mercy instead of kicking it. Mercy fixed what she could and said no when she could not. That surprised them most. A woman who had been mocked was supposed to be grateful for scraps of approval. Mercy was grateful for work, but she was not hungry for pity. She charged 2 cents to patch personal gear and nothing for ranch equipment. When Lute Barnes asked if she could let out his Sunday vest because his belly had got prosperous, she looked him over and said, "Some cloth can be saved, some can't." The bunkhouse roared. Lute turned red. After that, he stopped calling her biscuit barrel where she could hear. Calder noticed more than anyone knew. He noticed that Mercy tested a repair twice before handing it back. He noticed she kept leftover nails sorted by size in jelly jars. He noticed she ate last, not because she was meek, but because she was watching what ran short. He noticed she saved bacon grease for leather and ashes for lye, and that the kitchen accounts, once chaotic under Mrs. Dobb's failing eyes, began making sense. One evening, he found Mercy on the back step after supper with a slate balanced on her knees. The sunset burned copper along the low hills, taken down her hair, and it fell in a thick brown braid over one shoulder. She was adding figures. Calder stopped beside the rain barrel. "You keep accounts too?" Mercy looked startled, then guarded. "Only kitchen stores." "Mrs. Dobb asked you?" "No." "Why do it?" Because someone is cheating you on flour. Calder's face sharpened. What? Mercy turned the slate so he could see. You paid for 400 pounds last month. I counted 280 in sacks. Even allowing for use, the number's wrong. Same with coffee. Same with lamp oil. Could be waste. It could, she said, but waste doesn't write the same crooked 7 on every invoice. Calder crouched beside the step and studied her figures. He knew the mark at once. Amos Greer, owner of Greer Mercantile in Powder Creek, a man who smiled like a church deacon and charged like a bandit. You're sure? No, Mercy said. I'm careful. That answer pleased him more than certainty would have. From then on, Calder began asking her questions. Not many, never in front of men who would twist them. But in the evenings, when the yard cooled and the horses settled, he would bring a broken buckle, or a bill of sale, or a question about supply stores. Mercy answered when she knew. When she did not, she said so. It became a quiet habit. People in town noticed quiet habits. By August, the drought had deepened. Powder Creek shrank into warm, bitter pools. The grass crisped yellow under the cattle. Dust lay on windowsills, in coffee cups, in the creases of men's eyelids. Calder rode out before dawn and came back after dark, looking thinner each week. The Double V had water from the north well and a spring tucked in a draw. But the spring flowed through land Amos Greer claimed to have purchased from an old survey company. Greer had money, paper, and friends in the county office. Calder had older rights, a dead father's map, and stubbornness. One Saturday, he took 4 men into town to meet with the water commissioner. Mercy went too, seated on the supply wagon beside Mrs. Dobb, who needed sugar and medicine for her joints. Mercy wore her best brown dress, though best only meant it had no patches showing from the front. She pinned her braid tight and kept her chin level as the wagon rolled into Powder Creek. The town was small but proud. 1 main street, 2 saloons, a church, a jail, a newspaper office, and Greer Mercantile sitting in the center, like a judge. Mercy had barely stepped down from the wagon when 2 women near the boardwalk stopped talking and stared. One whispered, the other covered her smile with a gloved hand. Mercy pretended not to see. Inside the Mercantile, the air smelled of coffee, rope, calico, and vinegar. Amos Greer stood behind the counter in a gray vest, his hair oiled flat, his smile polished for business. Mr. Vale, he said, always a pleasure when the Double V remembers civilization. Calder set a folded invoice on the counter. You shorted my flour. Greer's smile did not move. Strong accusation. Accurate one. Greer lifted the paper, glanced at it, and sighed. My clerk must have made an error. Hard to find good help these days, though I see you're trying charity as a hiring practice. His eyes slid to Mercy. The store went still. Mercy felt the familiar heat rise up her throat. She had been stared at in depots, mocked by schoolboys, dismissed by women who believed cruelty became respectable when spoken softly. But something about Greer's gaze was worse. It weighed and priced her. Calder's voice dropped. Say what you mean. Greer chuckled. Only that a ranch is a demanding place. Not everyone is built for usefulness, even if there's plenty of build. A few men near the Cracker Barrel laughed. Mercy held her breath. Calder took 1 step forward. Before he could speak, Mercy did. You charged Mr. Vale for Arbuckle coffee at 34 cents a pound, she said, her voice clear enough to carry. But the sacks you delivered were Rio sweepings from last winter. You charged full weight on flour, including the barrel weight. You billed lamp oil twice in June. And the molasses you sold Mrs. Dobb was cut with sorghum and water. Greer's smile thinned. You have a sharp tongue for a wash girl. No, Mercy said. I have sharp eyes. The storekeeper leaned forward. And do your sharp eyes know how business works? They know crooked 7s. Calder glanced at her, then back at Greer. Refund the difference. Greer's face hardened under the powder of civility. Or I ask every ranch wife from here to Laramie to check her invoices for crooked 7s. That did it. Greer counted out the money with fingers stiff as wire. Outside, Mrs. Dobb looked at Mercy as if seeing her for the first time. You got more nerve than I gave you credit for. Mercy gave a small smile. I keep most of it hidden. But Greer did not forget. Men like Amos Greer could survive losing money. They could not survive being made small in public by someone they considered beneath them. 3 nights later, a rider came to the Double V with a notice folded in his coat. The spring draw, he said, was under legal challenge. Until the county settled the claim, Calder was ordered not to run cattle through it. If he violated the notice, the herd could be seized. Elias cursed until Mrs. Dobbs shouted from the kitchen that blasphemy would not make rain. Calder read the notice twice, his jaw tight. Mercy stood by the stove, kneading dough she had not been asked to make. She saw the date on the paper. She saw the ink. She saw the same crooked 7. That night, after the others went to bed, Calder found her in the pantry doorway. "You saw it," he said. "I saw the handwriting." "Greer? Looks like it." He leaned against the table, exhausted. "If I can't water the herd in the spring draw, I have to move them south. South grass is poor. We'll lose weight before sale, maybe lose cattle. Is there another source?" "An old well near Coyote Shelf. My father capped it when I was 12. Water went brackish." "Brackish how?" "Bad enough the cattle wouldn't drink." Mercy wiped flour from her hands. "May I see it?" He looked at her. "At night?" "In the morning." The next day, Calder took Mercy to Coyote Shelf in a buckboard. Elias objected. Lute muttered that if the ranch was relying on a fat girl and a ghost well, they might as well sell the cattle for candles. Calder heard him and said, "You're welcome to ride to town and tell Greer you agree with him." "Lute, shut up." Coyote Shelf lay beyond a ridge of red stone, where sagebrush grew low and gray, and the earth cracked in plates. The old well stood under a slanted frame, capped with boards, half buried in sand. Mercy knelt beside it, though the ground was hard and hot. She pried at the boards with a crowbar, while Calder loosened the rusted nails. When the cap came free, a sour mineral smell rose from the dark. Calder grimaced. "Told you." Mercy lowered a tin cup on a string. The water came up cloudy. She touched it to her tongue, spat, then dipped her finger again and rubbed the residue between thumb and forefinger. "Alkali," Calder said. "Yes," she answered, "but not only that." She walked a slow circle around the well, studying the slope, the dry wash, the white crust on stones. Then, she pointed to a shallow trench, almost hidden under brush. Someone cut runoff into it. Calder crouched. The trench was old, but not natural. During rare rains, bitter wash water from the flats would drain toward the well casing. Slowly, year after year, it had fouled the source. "My father thought the well turned bad on its own," Calder said. "Maybe it had help." They worked all afternoon. Mercy's face burned red under her hat. Sweat darkened the back of her dress. Once, when she bent to lift a stone, Elias's old words seemed to echo from memory. "Built enough to pull a plow." She straightened, breathing hard. Calder noticed. "Rest. I'm not glass." "I didn't say you were." "No," she said softly. "Most people say worse." He looked at her for a long moment. "Most people are fools when they're frightened." "Frightened of what?" "Being wrong about someone." That was the first thing Caldervale said to her that stayed with her after dark. They diverted the trench, packed clay around the well casing, and dropped charcoal and clean sand into a filtering barrel. Mercy, designed from an old vinegar cask. It did not fix everything, but by evening, the water drawn from the well was clearer. Bitter still, but less cruel. "It needs flushing," Mercy said. "And the cattle need to be eased onto it, not forced. Horses first. They'll tell you faster if it's wrong." Calder nodded. "You're giving orders now?" She looked embarrassed. "No." "You should." By week's end, the Double V had a second water source. By the next, Greer knew it. He changed tactics. The county fair came in early September, a dusty celebration held in a field outside Powder Creek. There were horse races, preserves, shooting contests, church pies, fiddle music, and enough gossip to poison a river. Calder did not want to go, but he needed to speak to the commissioner and show that the Double V was not hiding like a guilty man. Mrs. Dobb insisted Mercy enter something in the household exhibit. Mercy refused. "I don't need town women judging my biscuits," she said. "Then don't give them biscuits," Mrs. Dobb snapped. "Give them something they don't know how to judge." So Mercy brought a small hand-built water filter in a crate. Charcoal, sand, cloth, and a leather valve cut and stitched to regulate flow. It was plain, practical, and ugly. The women laughed when they saw it between jars of peaches and embroidered pillowcases. "What is it?" one asked. "A contraption," said another. Lute, who had ridden in with the ranch hands, said under his breath, "Looks like a butter churn got kicked by a mule." Mercy pretended not to mind. But she minded. Of course she minded. A human heart did not become stone just because it had been bruised often. Then a boy came running from the animal pens, shouting that a child had fallen near the mule trough. Mercy moved before the men did. A little girl, no more than 6, had slipped in mud and struck her head against a water barrel. She lay dazed, crying weakly, while her mother screamed. The trough water beside her was green and foul from too many animals. A doctor had not yet arrived. Mercy dropped to her knees. Her sighs, which town women had mocked a moment before, became strength and shelter. She lifted the child with steady arms, checked her breathing, and told the mother to stop shaking her. "I need clean water," Mercy said. "There isn't any nearby," someone answered. Mercy looked toward her crate. "Bring me that." In minutes, she had her filter assembled over a bucket, pouring boiled fair water through charcoal and cloth. It was not a miracle. It did not cure the child. But it cleaned the grit, the scum, the worst of the filth. Mercy washed the blood from the girl's hair, pressed a cloth to the wound, and kept her awake until the doctor arrived. The mother sobbed thanks. The doctor, an old man with spectacles and a tobacco-stained mustache, inspected Mercy's filter and said loudly, "This may have kept infection from starting before I got here." Everyone heard. So did Amos Greer. He stood near the auction tent with his thumbs tucked into his vest, watching as people gathered around Mercy. Their faces had changed. Curiosity first, then respect. The worst thing that could happen to a man like Greer was not losing one battle. It was watching the person he had mocked become useful to everyone. That afternoon, Mercy won no ribbon. The judges gave blue to a rose quilt and red to peach preserves. But before she left, the mother of the injured child pressed a small white ribbon into Mercy's hand. "It was for my pickled pears," the woman said, crying again. "Take it anyway." Mercy did not know what to say. Calder saw her later behind the wagon, holding the ribbon like it was made of glass. "You earned more than the judges knew how to give," he said. She looked down. "It's only a ribbon." "No," he said. "It's proof somebody saw." The ride back to the ranch was quiet. Mercy sat beside Mrs. Dobb, but she felt Calder's presence on horseback near the wagon, not hovering, not claiming, simply there. That night, the men at supper spoke to Mercy differently. They did not become saints. Men rarely did in a single evening. But when she entered with the coffee pot, Elias moved a chair out of her way. Lute said, "Thank you, Miss Hollis," so awkwardly that 3 men stared at him. Mercy almost laughed. 2 days later, the barn burned. It started after midnight, when the wind was high and dry. A line of flame ran up the hayloft like a living thing. Smoke rolled over the yard, and horses screamed inside the stable wing. Men burst from the bunkhouse, half-dressed, shouting for buckets. Calder was first through the smoke. Mercy woke to Mrs. Dobb coughing in the kitchen room. She ran outside barefoot, her braid loose, her nightdress covered by a shawl. The barn glowed orange at the seams. Sparks flew into the dark like swarms of fireflies. "Open the east doors," Calder shouted. "They're jammed!" Elias yelled back. Mercy saw the problem before she reached them. The sliding latch had dropped into a warped groove, swollen by heat. 2 men yanked uselessly. "Move," she said. Nobody moved. She grabbed a hammer from the tool rack and struck the lower hinge pin, once, twice, again. Lute shouted that she would break it. She ignored him. The pin dropped. She kicked the brace loose with all the weight people had mocked, and the door sagged outward. Elias seized it. Calder drove 3 horses through the gap, their eyes rolling white. Then Mercy heard a smaller sound beneath the roar. A boy's cough. Tom Weller, the 12-year-old stable orphan Calder had taken on for chores, was inside near the tack room. He had gone back for a trapped foal. Calder turned toward the sound. A beam fell, blocking the center aisle. "Tom!" he shouted. The boy answered with a weak cry. The men froze. The heat was too fierce. Mercy did not. She ran to the water trough, soaked a horse blanket, and threw it over Calder's shoulders before he plunged inside. "Left side wall," she yelled. "Tack room has a vent board." Calder disappeared into smoke. Mercy ran around the barn, coughing, eyes streaming, hands searching the outer planks. She found the vent board by touch, kicked it, then struck it with the hammer until the wood cracked. Inside, Tom screamed. "Push him this way," Mercy shouted. A moment later, Calder's hands shoved the boy toward the opening. Mercy caught Tom under the arms. He was slight, terrified, and coughing black smoke. She pulled him through and held him against her body as he gasped. Then, Calder tried to follow. The opening was too narrow for his shoulders. Behind him, fire moved through the tack room. Mercy looked once at the flames, once at the boards, and made a decision. She seized a pry bar, jammed it under the split plank, and threw her weight backward. The board did not move. She screamed with effort, not fear. Lute and Elias reached her then, adding their strength. The plank tore free. Calder came out on his side, coughing, his sleeve burning. Mercy beat the flame out with her bare hands. For 1 second, in the red light of the burning barn, Calder grabbed her wrists. Her palms were blistered. His eyes changed, not with pity. Mercy would have hated pity, with terror at what she had risked. And something deeper, something that had been growing quietly for weeks and now had nowhere left to hide. The barn roof collapsed before dawn. They saved half the horses, most of the tack, and Tom Weller's life. They found an oil-soaked rag near the back wall after sunrise. Elias found boot tracks by the fence, one heel chipped in a crescent. Calder knew whose boots had a crescent heel. But knowing and proving were different things. Greer came at noon with the sheriff and a face arranged into false sorrow. "Terrible accident," he said, looking at the smoking beams. "A ranch under legal strain can become careless." Calder's hands curled. Mercy stood near the kitchen porch with bandaged palms. Tom sat beside her, wrapped in a quilt, alive because she had heard him. Greer looked at her bandages and smiled just enough. "Such devotion from hired help," he said. "Though I wonder, Mr. Vale, how proper it is to keep an unmarried woman under your roof. Tongues are wagging. They say she has unusual influence here." Mercy went cold. There it was. Not the barn, not the water, not the money. Her. Greer had chosen the oldest weapon. Shame. The sheriff looked uncomfortable. Elias looked murderous. Lute stared at his boots. Calder stepped forward. Then Mercy did too. She had spent her whole life letting people say things because answering cost more than silence. But the barn still smoked. Tom still coughed. Her palms still burned. And she was tired, tired in the bones, tired in the soul of men, mistaking cruelty for order. "My influence," Mercy said, "saved your sheriff from collecting a dead boy this morning." Greer's eyes narrowed. "Mind your tone." "No." The words startled everyone, including Mercy. She continued, voice shaking but clear. "You shorted flour, forged notices, fouled a well, and now you stand beside a burned barn talking about propriety because you cannot bear that a woman you laughed at can read, count, fix, and remember." The sheriff turned to Greer. "Forged notices?" Greer laughed. "Hysterics." Mercy raised her bandaged hand and pointed toward the yard. "His right boot has a crescent chip in the heel. The same mark is by the fence. And if you check his storehouse, you'll find lamp oil missing from the blue-marked crate he billed to the church last week." Greer's face changed. Only a little, but enough. The sheriff noticed. Calder spoke softly. "Search the storehouse." Greer took a step back. "You have no warrant." The sheriff's gaze hardened. "I can get one." By evening, Amos Greer was locked in the town jail. Not for all he had done, but for enough to start the rest unraveling. The forged water notice was found beneath his ledger. The oil crate was there too. So were letters to a cattle syndicate promising that the Double V would be forced to sell before winter. When the news reached the ranch, no one cheered. They were too tired. But at supper, Elias stood with his hat in his hand. Mercy was seated at the end of the table, because Mrs. Dobb had insisted, and because Calder had pulled out the chair himself. The men looked at Elias, then at her. The foreman cleared his throat. "Miss Hollis, I owe you an apology." Mercy's fingers tightened around her cup. Elias looked as if every word had to be dragged over gravel. "I judged you wrong, spoke wrong, let others speak wrong. You saved our water, caught a thief, and helped save that boy. This ranch owes you more than wages." Lute stood next, red to his ears. I called you names. I'm ashamed of it. Mercy looked around the table. Men who had laughed at her now looked down, not because they despised her, but because they finally saw themselves clearly. She could have punished them with silence. Part of her wanted to. Instead, she said, "Do better before you're sorry. Sorry comes late." Elias nodded. "Yes, ma'am." That was the night the Double V changed for good. Not into a perfect place. No such place existed west of the Missouri, but a truer one. The weeks that followed were hard. A burned barn did not rebuild itself. The water case did not vanish just because Greer sat in jail. Cattle still needed grass. Horses needed tending. Men needed feeding. And winter waited beyond the hills with its teeth already showing. Mercy worked with bandaged hands until Calder caught her trying to tighten a bolt with her wrist and took the wrench away. "I can work," she said. "I know." "Then give it back." "No." She glared at him. "You giving orders because you own the ranch?" "I'm giving orders because you only get one pair of hands." "They're my hands. That's why I'm trying to keep them whole." The anger left her slowly. She looked away toward the half-built barn frame. "I don't know how to be idle." "You're not idle," Calder said. "You're healing." She gave a small, bitter laugh. "People like me don't get much time for that." He stood beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him, not so close that she had to retreat. "People like you," he said, "are the only reason places like this survive." Mercy's throat tightened. A month earlier, she would have dismissed that as kindness. Now, she knew Calder Vale did not spend kindness cheaply. He meant what he said, and that frightened her more than mockery ever had. Mockery was familiar. Respect asked her to stand taller. By October, the new barn stood framed against the sky. Calder put Mercy's filter system near the north well and had her teach 2 men how to maintain it. He paid her wages not as kitchen help, but as ranch, mechanic, and accounts clerk. When Elias saw the amount in the ledger, his eyebrows rose. Calder said, "You object?" Elias shook his head. "No, sir. Just wondering if she'll hire the rest of us someday." Mercy heard and smiled into her coffee. One evening, as the first frost silvered the grass, Calder found her by the cottonwoods his mother had planted. The leaves rattled dry and gold above her. She wore a dark blue wool dress, Mrs. Dobb had altered to fit properly instead of apologetically. Mercy did not look smaller in it. She looked like she had stopped trying to disappear. Calder carried a folded paper. "I went to town today," he said. "I know. Mrs. Dobb complained you forgot cinnamon." "I remembered cinnamon. She'll be disappointed she can't scold you." He smiled, then held out the paper. "The water claim is settled. Spring draw stays with the Double V." Mercy's face lit in a way he had never seen. "Calder, that's wonderful. There's more." She took the paper carefully. It was a deed amendment. Her name was written under his. Mercy Hollis, 1/3 interest in Double V Waterworks, mechanical improvements, and supply accounts. She stared at it until the letters blurred. "I don't understand." "You built the system that kept the ranch alive," Calder said. "You found the fraud. You saved the well. If the Double V profits from what you made, your name belongs on it." She shook her head. "People will talk. They already do. They'll say I trapped you. Then they'll be wrong. They'll say you're foolish. I've survived worse accusations." She looked up at him, afraid now in a way no burning barn had made her. "Why?" Calder's voice softened. "Because I respect you." Mercy waited. Men often used respect as a porch before entering a house they wanted to own. Calder did not step closer. "And because I love you," he said. "But the deed isn't payment for that. It isn't a proposal. It isn't a bribe to stay. It's yours whether you leave tomorrow or remain here 50 years. Mercy's lips parted. All her life, offers had carried hooks. A bed for obedience. A wage for silence. A compliment for making herself less. A place at a table if she accepted the smallest chair. This was different. That was why it hurt. She looked toward the ranch yard, where Tom Weller was trying to teach a foal to lead, and Lute was pretending not to be kicked. Mrs. Dobbs' kitchen windows glowed yellow. The new barn smelled of fresh pine. Water turned in the trough under the windmill she had brought back to life. "What if I stay?" Mercy asked. Calder's eyes held steady. "Then stay, because you choose to. What if I love you too?" His breath caught. He had faced stampedes with less fear. "Then I'll spend my life trying to be worthy of that." Mercy laughed once, softly, because if she did not laugh, she would cry. You make it sound solemn. It is. She looked at the deed again, then folded it with care. I was told once that a woman shaped like me should be glad for any corner she was given, she said. A kitchen corner, a laundry corner, a shadowed corner. But I don't want a corner anymore. Calder smiled then, slow and real. Good. I was hoping you'd take up more room. She stepped toward him first. By Christmas, the Double V had a new barn, a settled water claim, and a long table built from salvaged beams of the old one. Mercy insisted on using the burned wood. Sanded clean, it still held dark streaks deep in the grain. Scars prove something lasted, she said. Calder married her in March, when the first green showed along Powder Creek. The whole ranch came to the wedding, and half the town too. The mother of the little girl from the fair brought white ribbons for Mercy's bouquet. Elias stood stiff and proud beside Calder. Lute cried and denied it. No one in Powder Creek would ever call Mercy Hollis invisible again. Years later, when travelers stopped at the Double V and admired the windmill, the clean water, the strong horses, and the big kitchen, where no one ate last unless they chose to, people told the story differently depending on who was speaking. Some said it began with a broken pump. Some said it began with a crooked storekeeper. Some said it began the night of the barn fire, when a woman, everyone underestimated, tore open a wall and pulled a boy into the air. Tom Weller, grown tall by then, and carrying the Vale name after Calder and Mercy adopted him, told it best. He said it began the day his mother stepped out of the wash shed with grease on her cheek, while thirsty horses drank and foolish men learned shame. He would point to the old windmill, still turning above the trough, and say, "My pa asked who fixed the pump." Everybody looked around for a man. Then my ma stepped forward. And whenever Mercy heard him tell it, she would shake her head and pretend to be embarrassed. But she never told him to stop. Because there were girls in the world who needed to hear that a body others mocked could carry courage. That hands dismissed, as clumsy could mend what stronger hands had broken. That a woman did not have to shrink to be loved. That sometimes the person everyone ignored was the one holding the whole place together. And at the Double V, where water ran clear even in dry summers, no one forgot it. A person's worth is not measured by how loudly the world praises them, but by the quiet good they keep doing when no one is watching. Mercy reminds us to look closer, thank the hands that hold life together, and never make someone shrink to earn respect. A little kindness, given at the right moment, can help someone finally stand in the light. Please note, this story was created and fictionalized by AI for entertainment, while also sharing a positive life lesson.